After a heartbreaking loss to Wisconsin that knocked them out of the Big Ten tournament, Penn State men's basketball has officially hired Purdue associate coach Micah Shrewsberry as the new head coach. Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Penn State Sports Night. I'm Lexy Leidlein, joined alongside Zach Gershman and Austin Groft. So Zach, I'm going to start with you. With Penn State hiring Micah Shrewsberry and looking into next season, what are your thoughts on the hire?
Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the hire. I don't think it was a bad hire, but it definitely was not the showstopper hire that I kind of expected from Penn State. I mean, listen, he's the associate head coach, as Lexy said, to Purdue. He's had tons of experience sitting next to the guy calling the plays, but he has not called the plays since 2005 through 2007 when he was at Indiana University, South Bend, a Division II program. I was 4 years old, Austin, when he was last calling the plays. I don't have the greatest hopes for him coming to Penn State. I hope he proves me wrong. I want this program to succeed without a doubt. But listen, as the X's and O's head coach, I'm not really sure if that's going to be his role. He did recruit a couple 3-star and 4-star recruits to Purdue, and a couple Philly kids at that. Jameel Brown from Haverford School in the main line area. Maybe he brings him over here to Penn State, kind of steals that commit from Purdue. But the thing is with Micah Shrewsberry, he develops individuals. He develops stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He does not develop teams, which is why I'm not so thrilled about the hire, but I wish the guy well.
Zach, I get where you're coming from. Like you said, he hasn't really been the main guy for any team. And I like for his perspective, like he has been alongside some great people. You know, Brad Stevens is a great coach for the Boston Celtics, and he was with them when Butler made the run in the two different March Madnesses where they made the national championship. So he has that experience, but like you said, he's not really the guy he's not putting his foot on the pedal. He's not making the big choices. So that's why it's a bit questionable. I like him just because, like, when he was at Purdue this past season, he led them in offensive efficiency, like one of the best offenses in the nation in terms of efficiency this year. And Purdue also, in my opinion, was a sleeper team coming to the Big Ten. They proved some people wrong. And as you said about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with like some Penn State players this year and like developing them, their skills and stuff. It's just a bit questionable what he's going to do with the team as a collective group.
So you mentioned the offensive side of it, and yes, he might be an offensive-minded head coach, but Penn State was ranked 228th in the country in defensive efficiency. Penn State blew so many big leads and close games as well in the final couple minutes because their defense was very lackluster. They needed a defensive-minded head coach, and they got an offensive-minded head coach. And right now, you don't have many scorers on the team in general, especially with a really low recruiting class coming in. So that's why I'm not really thrilled about this.
Sorry, Zach, but I'm going to have to agree with Austin on this one. I know he doesn't have the head coaching experience that you want, but he does have coaching experience with successful programs on the collegiate and professional level that prepared him for this position. I know you have high expectations, but I'm glad you're wishing him well for this new job. With Shrewsberry stepping in, Coach Jim Ferry's involvement is up in the air. Austin, should Penn State have brought back Coach Ferry?
So I really like Jim Ferry. I think he's a great guy. You know, he carried over Chambers' attitude, mindset, and just like bringing overall energy as a group. But it's a bit questionable. I feel like for him, he was a little overwhelmed with the Big Ten. He kind of seemed flustered throughout the season, which is why, like, we saw that. Like, you know, Penn State struggled at the end of the game in multiple games this season, and he never fixed it, especially that Big Ten game against Wisconsin. Like, that comeback was insane. That just goes to show the energy and attitude that Penn State has. But, like, we saw in the final possession there, Sam Sessom was, like, threw the ball away, and we've seen that reoccurring the entire season. So that's why I get that Penn State made this decision. So for Shrewsberry, I like to see him, you know, make that change and also maintain the same attitude and energy that Jim Ferry had, but also bring in his skills and assets that he had in the previous teams he's been a part of.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Jim Ferry did have a lot of questionable late game calls, which was part of the issue why Penn State blew so many games and blew so many leads as well. But I would have rather had Jim Ferry instead of Micah Shrewsberry. Reason for it is because these players were fighting for Jim Ferry. He was put in an awful situation less than a month until the season began. And although the record does not show it, this team did play their heart out for him. And also, he does have the head coaching experience. And now he has a season of head coaching under his belt in the Big Ten. Would I have wanted him back over Micah Shrewsberry? Yes, but not in general. I thought that the hire that they should have made was Phil Martelli from Michigan, the associate head coach over there. The reason why Michigan, I believe, has had tons of success this year was because Juwan Howard, in only his second year, had a 30-year-plus head coach in Phil Martelli sitting right next to him. That is what I think Phil Martelli needed to be here at Penn State in the blue and white. He also has the Philadelphia roots, being a head coach at St. Joe's University and being a part of the Big Five over there. But that's not ultimately the hire that Penn State decided. And for that reason, yes, Micah Shrewsberry is the new head coach, but I would have rather had Jim Ferry over him.
I'm going to have to go with Zach on this one, Austin. I would have rather kept Ferry over Shrewsberry. I disagree with your point that he was overwhelmed in the Big Ten. It is understandable that there will be some kinks to work out in a head coach's first season, but I think he did well under the circumstances. With the head coach position filled, Zach, what does Shrewsberry need to bring to the program?
I mean, I think he needs to continue what Jim Ferry and Coach Chambers left off, which is the attitude mindset. That's something that the Penn State players tap on the wall every single time they walk through the tunnel of the BJC, even when they bring their little flag with them on visiting trips as well. And they go out there, but they need to play with an attitude in close games. This is a team that kind of fell off when the times got tough, and I guess that's where you could say Jim Ferry could have gotten a little bit overwhelmed. But it's the players that are making the ultimate plays. They're the ones making it happen on the court. He, as the head coach, needs to make sure that the players are in line with the overall game plan, and they have to play with attitude in late game situations.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Zach. If they continue the attitude and play with enthusiasm they always have been, just bringing the Penn State culture that Chambers and Ferry have created, if Shrewsberry can continue that and implement that with the new players that come into the system, I think he's going to be in perfect hands. For me, him coming in, it's just going to be great to see like his player development. But like it's always been a concern between us this entire segment whether or not he's going to be a great fit for the head coach position. So for me, I feel like overall, if he brings in the knowledge and wisdom that he has in his past experiences, that it's going to be able to bode well for him overall in the next season.
Attitude is key, especially since I think this year Penn State struggled in those types of situations. He already has this experience, and I think if him and the players can get on the same page, I think they have a really good chance in the regular season and postseason next year. Speaking of next season, Austin, what do you consider to be a successful year for Shrewsberry and the Nittany Lions come next March?
So Lexy, this past season, Penn State was right around the 500 spot, and I think for them that they just have to get around that spot for Shrewsberry to make it an overall good season for them and to show that he deserved the position. I think he needs to be competitive in the Big Ten. He obviously lost John Harrah and Trent Budrick, so he's going to be lacking in the forward position. It's going to be interesting how he's going to incorporate some kind of small ball lineup for Penn State next year.
The thing is that when it comes to what we would consider a successful season, obviously it's March or bust. You want to play in the March Madness tournament. You want to play there. But as a first-year head coach, entering a team with only one incoming recruit being Elijah Hutchins Everett, who did decommit already, and now he recommitted back to Penn State. I think that in order for it to be a successful season, better than what we would identify as successful for Ferry, better than we would identify for Chambers, would be a March Madness run. But ultimately, I don't expect for that to happen. So what I would consider a successful season within the first year of him being a head coach is just being competitive within the Big Ten. This is the toughest conference to play in all of not college football, especially college football as well, but college basketball especially. It's one of the toughest conferences to play in. And because of that, he has to be competitive with the other teams.
I think you're both right. I think this season is going to take a lot of hard work from both players and coaches. I'm eager to see how the players respond to this new hire and how they can grow. Well, that's all we have for college basketball on Penn State Sports Night. For Zach Gershman and Austin Groft, I'm Lexy Leidlein. Thanks for watching and have a great night. Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.